SCP-4959 is a zombie dinosaur. It's actually called something else, but I have no idea how to pronounce it. We're gonna react to it today from Dr. Bob, guys. Make sure to subscribe to his channel. Subscribe to me if you like reaction videos. Now let's get into this one.
The explorer slashes his way through the
Machete,
jungle,
boy.
using his large machete to hack through the
I used to
thick
love
undergrowth.
playing around with
He suddenly stops and turns around.
young.
Which way was it
Hacking
again?
down bushes and stuff,
His local
exploring
guide answers,
trails.
but he must wait for him to finish and his research assistant to translate.
Alright,
He says to continue straight. It's just another 100 yards
let's go
or so.
straight.
The gentleman explorer offers a quick nod before turning to resume cutting his way through the forest. The guide was right, though, because after a short way, the dense jungle suddenly opens up, giving way to a clearing that reveals one of the most incredible things the explorer has ever seen.
Like what?
Just ahead of him, rising out of the forest, is a massive ancient stone temple. A huge step pyramid of solid stone,
I've seen
intricately
some
carved and
pictures
covered
of
with elaborate
temples that were
statues.
discovered in like
The
deep
colossal
jungles
structure
and
looks
stuff,
like it
and
has
it's
been abandoned for
crazy
centuries,
looking
if not
that
longer,
people
with nature
built
having
that
done
so
its
long
best
ago,
to
right?
reclaim the stone and cover the pyramid in vines and other plants.
Sure.
The team approaches the temple, but stops in front of a stone monument that stands in front of it. The explorer traces its carved lines with his finger, knocking the dirt away to reveal its weathered pictograph. It appears to depict a sort of creature, but with large spread wings instead of arms.
Like a
Perhaps
pterodactyl.
a kind of ritualistic garb, the explorer says to his assistant. The assistant hastily scribbles in her notebook, trying to document everything she can. Yes, this is definitely a priest-like figure of some kind. Maybe a leader of this temple, thanks to the connection he shares to their... The explorer's musings
Like
are
a
interrupted by
caw-caw.
his guide, who he angrily spins around to face. Yes, what? What is it? His research assistant translates for him as usual. He
Okay.
says that we should go no further, that it's too dangerous.
Nonsense.
Nonsense, replies the explorer.
Nonsense.
We came all this way,
Nonsense.
and who knows what
only
fantastic
a
treasures
zombie
await us
dinosaur.
inside. Historical treasures, I mean. Artifacts.
Historical
Treasures of knowledge,
treasures.
of course.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, replies his
You
assistant
trying to get
before
paid.
following her boss as he
I
starts
don't
making
blame
his
you,
way
bro.
up the step pyramid, as the guide holds true to his stated intentions
He ain't
and
going.
waits near the edge of the jungle.
Yeah.
The two of them walk through an entrance that
I'm
leads
gonna give
into
you
a
20
long,
minutes.
dark hallway
If you ain't out,
with only
I'm
torches
going
to
home.
light their way. It's impossible to see just how deep it runs into the temple.
Look at
The
all the
explorer
writings
stops
on
to
the walls,
examine
the
the walls,
hieroglyphics
which
and
are
stuff.
covered in even more carvings.
Right.
He can see that there are complicated geometric patterns, but also many more depictions of the same winged creature that was on the monument outside.
Chasing
Here, though,
people
Creatures are
and
depicted in
trying
moments
to
of
eat them.
action. They appear to be running, chasing, reaching out and grabbing for people. They are shown attacking them, picking them up, carrying them away to... Right where the pictograph story should reveal its climax is a chunk of missing wall. It must have fallen off at some point.
Not really sure how the
Oh,
story
well,
ends,
The
huh?
explorer declares before moving
It's
on
about to
explore
get
more of the
reenacted
temple.
right now for
His
you.
assistant
Front
doesn't
row
follow,
seats.
though. She
They're
spots
watching
several
you
pieces of stone
in
on
the
the floor
crack.
underneath the missing panel and kneels down to get a closer look.
Mm-hmm.
She begins to gather them together, rearranging the various pieces
that
back
the
into their
piece?
original form.
Doing the
Meanwhile, the
puzzle.
explorer's attention has been caught by something else. On the other side of the hall is a statue of a tall, proud
Shiny.
warrior, and in his hand he clutches a large
Don't take
bejeweled
Indiana
spear,
Jones'
the
Temple of Doom.
gemstones
You're gonna see a
adorning
big
it
rock
sparkling
fall.
in the torchlight. The explorer
It's a
reaches
booby
out
trap.
and grips the spear's handle. He begins to pull, perhaps being a little rougher than one should with an ancient artifact.
Yeah.
But he wants this fabulous jeweled piece, and
Of
even more
course.
than the spear itself. He wants the acclaim it will bring him back home.
Right.
As the explorer pulls on the spear, his research assistant moves the final piece of the broken wall carving into position.
She's
She
about to
holds her
see what
torch
it's all
over it
about.
to get a better look, and she gasps. The winged creatures are carrying people away, but that isn't the end of the story. They are bringing them somewhere. And she can even see now that they are being presented to an even bigger winged creature. It's a monster. A monster that is feeding on the people. The assistant turns to tell the explorer what she has
You
found.
might not want to do.
Just as she does, she watches as he is finally able to rend the spear loose from the statue's grip.
You might need to
The
fight
statue
it.
finally letting go causes him to fall backwards to the ground, where he lies, marveling at the beautiful jeweled spear in his hands. Look out, yells his assistant.
Watch it,
The
buddy.
explorer doesn't notice that the statue is precariously rocking back and forth, and he rolls out of the way just before it crashes
Wow.
down right where he was lying and admiring the spear.
Can you
Are
imagine?
you okay? She asks as she rushes over. I think so, he tells her. Just a little bump on the head. Nothing that can't be fixed up by a good... By a good what? She asks, but he seems distracted by something behind her. By a good... God, what is that? He points,
It's the
and the
zombie
research assistant
pterodactyl.
turns to see something emerging from a hole in the wall where the statue once stood. It's one of the creatures from the wall carvings. A bizarre half-man, half-lizard with wings instead of arms.
But it's
So
bone.
there's no flesh at all. The creature is completely made of bone. The two of them both scream at the skeletonized half-human, and the creature screams right back at them, emitting a shrill, high-pitched
Go,
squeal.
go, 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 go!
Suddenly, more of the creatures begin to emerge from the
They're
hole in the
everywhere.
wall, with
Get
others
the
crawling
spear.
out of
Run.
previously unseen and
Oh
unnoticed
my
holes in the
God.
walls and ceiling. The
You-
creatures rush towards
Yo,
them,
miss.
blocking
Yo,
their way out of
screwed.
the temple, and the pair have no choice
It
but to
ain't
run
happening.
further down the darkened hallway.
Further in?
As they run, more of the creatures emerge from holes in the darkness, screaming at them and grasping at them with the sharp claws on the end of their wings. As they round a corner, one reaches out and grasps the explorer's ankle, causing him to trip and fall hard onto the stone floor.
Ow.
His assistant rushes to his aid, but as she is helping him up,
When's
two
the
more
last
of the creatures
time you
appear
just
behind
fell,
him and
like,
envelop her in their bony winged
on
arms.
hard
The
floor?
explorer stands up and stabs
It
at one of them
hurts
with a jeweled
so
spear
much,
as they
man.
drag her into a dark hole, but a third tears it from his hands.
Uh-oh.
With more still coming down the hallway behind him, the explorer has
You
to
better
run.
run.
The hallway in front
You
of him
better
looks
leave
to
your
have
little
collapsed
jeweled
at
spear.
some point in the past,
And the
He
lady.
has no choice but to enter one of the dark tunnels that has been carved into the rock. The narrow tunnel winds back and forth, and the explorer is
He's gonna meet
unsure of where
Mama.
he is going or what his plan is.
He's
He
gonna
rounds a
meet
bend,
Big
and
Mama,
the tunnel
zombie
opens up into a
pterodactyl.
gigantic room. The ceiling must be over 100 feet high, and he can't see the furthest walls, with the only light emitted by his torch and
perfect
dim beam
layer
of
for
sunlight
a
coming down
giant
through a hole
one.
high up in the ceiling. He notices, too, that it has suddenly gone quiet. He turns and looks back at the tunnel he has just
They ain't
emerged
coming down
from,
there.
and notices
That's
that the
where the
sound
big
of
one's
the
at.
horrible creatures that were chasing him has ceased. The explorer
thinks
hears
he's
something
safe?
coming from deeper in the giant room and turns
You hear that
back,
low
peering
growl?
into the darkness. There, in a single beam of light, he sees one of the winged creatures. But it is moving strangely, as if it isn't walking, but floating up into the air. And that's because it isn't walking. As it gets closer, the explorer can see that the winged creature is stuck on the tooth of a giant,
Look how
monstrous
big,
mouth.
dude.
The huge winged creature emerges from the darkness
God.
into the beam of light, tossing back its giant head to consume the
Oh,
creature
it's
that was stuck in its teeth,
even-
its bones loudly cracking in its mouth. Now, in the light, the
Now it's
explorer can
hungry.
see that the monster, which itself must be hundreds of feet long, is a huge flying lizard of some kind. Or at least it was at one time.
He's so screwed,
since now
dude.
the majority of its body is made only of bone. What scraps of flesh are left hang off in rotten ribbons. The monster opens its mouth and roars at the explorer. Its foul breath smells like a mausoleum opening up, hitting the explorer in the face. The explorer tries to run, but the monster swipes out with a bony
Not
wing
happening.
that still has a few blackened strips of leathery skin on it and knocks him to the ground. He is pinned to the floor with a huge spiny claw as the creature opens its mouth, roaring again before moving its head down to start feasting on its meal. The explorer closes his eyes, bracing himself to be eaten alive, when the creature suddenly lets out an ear-piercing scream. The explorer opens his eyes to see the
SCP
jeweled spear
Foundation?
sticking out of one of the few spots of
Oh!
flesh remaining on the creature's clawed foot.
Old girl's
and
back.
gripping the shaft
Yeah!
is his assistant. She looks a little worse for wear, but she's alive. She offers him a hand
Nice.
to help him up.
How did she
They need to
survive?
get out of there. But first, the explorer pulls the spear from the monster's claw. The two start running, doing everything they can to avoid the monster as it claws and swipes at them.
Wow.
They spot an illuminated opening at the other end of the
Get
vast
out,
room.
get out, get
With
out.
no other option. Start heading towards it. As they get closer, they can see it's just what they need.
Dr. Bob usually
Daylight,
kills
escape.
victims, though.
They both slide to a stop at the cusp of the opening, nearly tumbling over the edge. On the other side, the tunnel opening up out of the side of the temple gives way to nothing but air, and a drop
Wow.
of hundreds of feet down to the jungle below. They turn to see the monster still rushing towards them, and without time to think any longer, they both jump, just seconds
can't-
before the creature snaps
can't-
its bony
like,
jaws
it's
in the
the
place where they
decision.
were standing.
It's gonna
It's too
hurt to
big
fall
fit anything
down.
more than its mouth out the door, and it
It's gonna
howls
hurt.
and screams as they fall through the
Hundreds?
air before crashing to the ground below. The assistant slowly opens her eyes to see someone. It's their guide. He
Hey!
is cradling her head and asking if she's okay. She sits up, dazed
fell
and
a few
more
hundred
than a little
feet, though.
bruised from her fall. She asks the guide where the explorer is, if he's all right, and the guide lowers his eyes, looking as though he'd rather not answer.
He probably
He
died.
points next to them without looking, and the assistant turns to
He
see
landed
the
on the
explorer
spear?
lying on the ground a few feet away from them,
no!
his body impaled on
He
the jeweled
wanted that
spear.
stupid spear.
History is full
What a
of
sad
tales and
story,
legends
Dr.
about
Bob.
gods, monsters, and everything in between.
A good
But not
story,
all
though.
of these are just stories. And in
Right.
fact, sometimes the reality is even more terrifying than what we could envision. And that is exactly the case when it comes to SCP-4959, also known as the Teotihuacan Pterodactylactery. SCP-4959 is a huge creature that resembles a pterosaur, which were flying reptiles that existed during the Mesozoic era.
Right.
While pterosaurs have been extinct for millions of years, SCP-4959 is very much alive, or at the very least, animate. This massive anomaly, whose wingspan stretches approximately 50 meters, is in a living state of decomposition, with roughly 70% of its flesh having rotted or otherwise fallen away, leaving only small patches of skin and decaying tissue clinging to its bones.
Smell great.
The flesh that does remain shows no signs of further decomposition, though, as if it is permanently locked into this specific stage of advanced decay. Tests of 4959's flesh have shown no apparent abnormalities, save for a slightly higher than expected concentration of iridium. Its eyes are no longer present, but the eye sockets somehow shine with a bright green light, though the source of this luminescence is unknown. When angered, the creature also emits a multicolored corona of fire from its wings, skull, and neck. SCP-4959 was discovered in a gigantic chamber beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent in Teotihuacan, Mexico. A number of tunnels connect to the chamber, and these, too, are anything but empty. Lurking within the temple's many twisting passages are entities that have been designated SCP-4959-A's. These humanoid-sized creatures appear to be constructed of various human and pterosaur bones, creating an all-new creature that is an amalgamation of both. The bones are connected to a central stone-like heart, but it is unknown if this heart was carved from stone, or if it was at one time a real heart that turned to stone through a process of ossification. Nor is it fully understood just how the bones are connected to it or stay together. The 4959-A entities also have a number of varying adornments on their bodies, which can include strips of decayed fabric, feathers, and precious stones that resemble those worn by the indigenous people who resided in the area many centuries ago.
It's weird.
SCP-4959 is carnivorous, though it is unknown if it requires or simply desires to feed. Regardless, it seems to be the task of the SCP-4959-A entities to bring it meals, since the 4959 creature itself is too large to leave its chamber beneath the temple. The hallways and passages that originally connected the temple to the chamber housing SCP-4959 have all collapsed, and the only tunnels now leading to it were most likely dug into the rock and earth by the 4959-A entities. They searched through these tunnels, most often working at night, looking for small animals like birds and lizards, but also occasionally finding a larger animal or even a human who has somehow found themselves inside. They will then bring their live prey directly to the giant pterosaur, offering them up as both a meal and a sacrifice. SCP-4959 will then proceed to eat the prey whole, sometimes consuming the 4959-A entity at the same time as well. The temple itself is covered in carvings and murals that give numerous hints as to the origin of SCP-4959. While it is unknown just how it got there, it appears as though the local people discovered the creature within its chamber and regarded it as an avatar of their feathered serpent god, or perhaps another unknown deity. A temple was constructed at the site, and they soon began making sacrifices to the god creature that lived beneath, starting with small animals, but then progressing to human sacrifices on important
that's
holy
how
days.
It all starts, too.
There is also something else shown in the murals that looks to be of great importance. It seems as though SCP-4959 possessed a sort of heart, which is depicted as a large gemstone, described as being red as blood and bright as the rising sun.
But now it just looks like stone, right? This gemstone was previously housed at the pinnacle of the temple, though its current location is unknown. Following intense study of the site by SCP Foundation historians, a narrative was pieced together that may explain at least some of what happened there. Okay.
It seems as though there was an uprising within the local population in roughly the 6th century AD. A conflict had arisen amongst the people as to whether this really was a god, or something else, something evil. Those who doubted the deific origins of SCP-4959 wrested control of the temple and journeyed into its depths to attempt to kill the creature.
Oh gosh.
The many scorch marks on the wall are a testament to the battle that likely took place, and while they suffered many losses, it appears as though they were at least able to seal the chamber shut.
Well,
it is currently unknown what became of the great jewel on top of the temple after this,
I guess.
but its location is of great interest to the Foundation, given that it may well be the source of SCP-4959's longevity.
It's true.
SCP-4959 has been classified as Euclid, and it continues to be contained within the chamber beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent,
its containment,
though all of the tunnel entrances leading into it have been blocked by reinforced gates.
Well, yeah.
If new ones are discovered as the result of SCP-4959-A's continued tunneling, they too are to be gated and sealed. Once per week, a large live animal, most often a cow, is deposited down a shaft that leads directly to the
Poor
chamber.
cow,
And so
man.
far, this seems to be keeping SCP-4959 content to stay within its tomb. Just what is SCP-4959?
Weekly cow day.
And what are the
Cow
half-man,
week.
half-pterosaur creatures who serve it? Are they former human sacrifices, now destined to live in eternity in servitude to their master?
That is kind of weird.
If
Maybe they were converted.
SCP-4959 was a god at one point, the fact that we are now the ones responsible for feeding it and keeping it happy means that, in a sense, we are the ones serving it now.
Yeah.
Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob.
This one was actually really good, man. I love dinosaur stuff. I've always have. This wasn't really super dinosaur related, but all of this, you know, the like the native cultures and worshiping gods or these creatures and stuff like that. There's a lot of examples of this in mythology, like what was the movie against the Titans, when the Clash of the Titans, that's what I'm trying to think of, when they were sacrificing people to the gods or whatever, to the sea serpents. There's always fascinating stuff in the SCP universe. At any rate, guys, make sure to subscribe to Dr. Bob. Subscribe to me if you like reaction videos too. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off. We'll see you next time.